Session 3, Collaborating with Tech. In this session, we're going to take a look at the tips, the tricks, the tools, and just finding some different ways to incorporate collaboration into your classroom. We're also going to dive quickly into why collaboration might be a good thing for your students in your classroom. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this video as we dive into collaborating in the classroom. As always, we'll start with the requirement piece to receive the one technology CEU credit and, of course, the standard 1 hour teacher pay. To receive both of those, you need to do two things. Number one is watch the video, which obviously you are doing right now. Number two, on Schoology, under the Session 3 folder, there are a couple of projects with some directions on how to add to some of those projects. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna collaborate with other people who are taking this course, and you guys are gonna work together on projects that I've started, and all you need to do is add something to one of those projects, and that will complete your 1 hour technology certification for this class. First off, we're gonna quickly look at some of the reasons why adding collaboration to your classroom would be a good idea. First up, I think it's important that collaboration is included because it's a skill that students will need forever. It's a lifelong skill. It's one of those things that we talk about as a district, providing tools for life. One of those tools is going to be collaboration. Within that idea of collaboration, there are a lot of skills that kind of fall under that category. You know, the first skill you think about is teamwork. Teamwork, that just happens to be a skill that, you know, everybody at some point in their life, either in a work situation or a social situation, is going to need to have. Another skill that we think is important here would be communication. Having the ability to communicate with others, to kind of express ideas, express opinions, work together, and be able to clearly articulate, you know, thoughts and ideas is going to be another important and valuable skill that comes along with collaboration. In addition to teamwork and communication, problem solving is another thing that comes up a lot in utilizing collaboration. Being able to look at problems differently, kind of get some different perspective on how people view things, have different ways of looking at potential solutions, and just being able to work together with those group members is a great way to kind of install that problem solving skill. And the last thing is it provides a sense of responsibility. Within a group, students are more likely to kind of feel the pressure from their peers to make sure, you know, they're keeping up with deadlines and making sure that they just have a responsibility to kind of make sure they keep up and make sure that they are being a valuable group member. As always, there's always some challenges that kind of come along with the collaboration and the group work and any type of group project that comes up. You know, the first one I think that comes up with everybody is what happens when one person or a group of people within, you know, a group don't participate or are not keeping up with their group work, or one person is kind of dominating the work. How do you handle those situations? For myself, that's usually where I assign one group captain whose main responsibility is just to make sure that all people are participating, and if they aren't participating or are maybe trying to do too much, then they just report to me and I can kind of intervene or overlook that situation and just make sure that all students are being, you know, those responsible group members, and that's one potential way to help alleviate that situation. The other part that kind of comes with collaboration and one of the challenges would be just the opportunity, whether it's the amount of time a project like that takes, if it's a project that requires outside of school type work, just making sure that all students have the opportunity, if they need the internet or if they need access to each other, just making sure that all students and all group members have that opportunity to be able to kind of reach each other and complete all things as necessary. Hopefully, a little bit later on in this session, I can show you a couple of tools that can help some of those potential situations and just show why collaboration can be so valuable in the classroom. All right, so now I'm just going to kind of cover the list or the agenda for this session and just kind of preview some of the things that are going to come up later on in this video. We're going to start with Google Slides and Google Docs. Now, I'm not going to necessarily show how these ones work. I think they're pretty self-explanatory, that most people have a pretty good idea how Docs and Slides. But we're going to kind of dive into maybe some other ways that we could utilize Google Slides and Google Docs to kind of maximize that collaboration piece and look for other ways to implement those in our classroom. In addition to the Google apps, we're going to look at something called Pixelboard, which is an online whiteboard collaborator. Book Creator, which again, I've highlighted in many other sessions, but they've added some new features to help with collaboration. Keynote, which is one of Apple's premier apps. We're going to dive into that and how we can use that for collaboration. Explain Everything, which is the program that I'm using right now, has some really good collaboration features. And then the last one is Slack. Now, Slack's going to be a little bit different. That's going to be a place where students can kind of meet and share information, and we're going to see how we can use that to help us collaborate in the classroom. All right, our first tool that we're going to cover is Google Slides. Now, I kind of talked about it, the Google apps, we won't necessarily cover how they work. I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but we're more going to look at ideas and maybe different ways to think about Google Slides and Google Docs, and maybe how to incorporate them and incorporate the collaboration piece that makes the Google apps what they are. So we're just going to kind of bounce some different ideas around, and hopefully something that sticks out to you that maybe you can implement in your classroom and let kids kind of work together on and see what they can kind of come up with. Obviously, with Google Slides, a PowerPoint or slideshow maker, there are tons and tons of different ways you could use the multimedia tools and create basic presentation slideshow type things. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Just because it's kind of like the obvious choice there, I definitely felt like it needed to be included. Some other things, though, that maybe think outside the box a little bit more, things like create your own adventure story. Using the hyperlink feature, I've seen people who have kind of written stories, and throughout the story, you can kind of take two different routes on how to, on different events in the story, and then what happens in the story is based on kind of the events that you take. Kids can work together on something like that. They can, link to different slides. They can kind of develop that story and work on their writing at the same time. Field trip scrapbook. Everybody takes field trips throughout the year. A lot of times when people take a bunch of pictures, one maybe good way to kind of work together would be to create a scrapbook. Let students kind of work on that, implement their pictures, kind of show their field trip from maybe their side of their point of view and their side of things, just one possible way. There are a lot of study tools that you could do, a lot of things with vocab, splitting up that work between the whole class instead of just having, each kid individual. You could work on a collaborative, Google slide with different vocab on it. You could make things like a Jeopardy game, again, using the hyperlink feature. There are lots of possibilities out there for studying, for allowing groups or even the whole class to kind of work together and minimize the amount of work required on each student. Other possible ideas, again, kind of working along the same lines, keeping a math notes or journal. This would be one good way for maybe students to work together. Maybe you have kids who aren't that great at taking notes, and you had other students who were better at taking notes. They could work together on those types of things. They could share. Kids who are missing could easily get caught up on what was covered in a classroom in a day. Just so, again, a lot of possibilities on how that could be shaped to fit your classroom. And a lot of things with book projects too. I think, whether it's the slideshow or, using the video feature, the ability to insert video. There are a lot of possibilities out there for incorporating book projects that allow students to work together. And the nice part is they can work kind of on their own individual device. They don't need to all work on the same device. So that's just kind of some things to ponder about with Google Slides. So in addition to the Google Slides that we've already looked at, we'll quickly touch on Google Docs as well. Now, some ideas with Google Docs. Again, the idea of being able to collaborate with Google Docs a lot of times comes back to that peer editing piece. Again, that's kind of what the foundation of Google Docs was built on, and so we definitely want to be utilizing that anytime we're writing papers and stuff. The ability to have students edit those in groups or however they want to share those is definitely a positive. But we're going to take a look at a few other things as well. Now, some other ideas would be things like in younger grades, as they're working on writing, things like collaborative storytelling. Anytime they can, write a story or work together in a group, they could do that using Google Docs. For older kids who are more into taking notes, I've seen a lot of classes use note-taking. I kind of touched on it with Google Slides, but it could be done with Google Docs as well. A lot of vocab I've seen done, keeping a running list of vocab. Again, that could be something that the whole class does so that it kind of balances out the amount of work. That's something that could easily be set up with a Google Docs. And one idea that I found that was really cool would be a class Q&A. A place where students could post questions either in school or out of school that would be available for people to be able to answer at any time, whether that's a teacher or an instructor or other kids. Just one kind of way to kind of bring the class together and allow them to collaborate and work together. All right, we're going to take a look first at an app called Whiteboard. Now, Whiteboard is an online whiteboard space that provides for really easy collaboration. Now, there are probably a lot of similar apps out there, things like Educreations and Show Me, which are similar. I wanted to show something a little bit different this time, so I'm going with Whiteboard. Another app that probably can do some of the similar things is Padlet. People are probably a little bit more familiar with that one, but nonetheless, here's an app called Whiteboard. So I've opened it up. Now the app itself is free. There is a pro version, which also gives a free trial to their pro software. Just kind of going to show you around a few things. So again, we have the basic pencil tool. Now this is more of a true whiteboard. There's no real place to type anything or do anything like that. It will show you who is on the board at one time. So the little avatar of the chicken there is my character. It'll show you who's all on the board at the one time. To add people, I hit the little plus up in the top right corner, and I can copy the link, get people onto my board to collaborate with. There are other options down here. Obviously the eraser, I can erase the stuff that I've got on my board. I can highlight something, so if I start to draw a picture of something, and I want to highlight it so that people look at it, I can draw a little arrow. After a few seconds, it'll just kind of dissipate and disappear. So that's the highlighting tool. There are separate pages, and I can see kind of which page I'm on there and where everybody's located. Within the menu, is the ability to export, which is probably the nicest feature. By clicking on the export, it's going to save right into my camera roll, which I think is very beneficial. If I wanted to place images, something I wanted to take out of my camera roll and add it on there, I can certainly do that. So let's find a nice little picture right here. So I've added that into my space, onto my board, all things I can do with Whiteboard. So that's just kind of the short rundown. Again, this would be a great place for groups to work together on kind of a sketch if they were into like web mapping or drawing diagrams. I think a lot of science applications where people could, diagram different things, whether it's something in cells or, the way a process works, and then they could easily export it, save it to their camera roll. I've seen a lot of people do things with Venn diagrams. If you're writing, everybody can write kind of in their own little circle. They can work together on comparing and contrasting things. They can quickly save those into their camera rolls. And just a really quick, kind of fun way to the ability to collaborate with each other on a whiteboard space. The next app I'm going to show is one I've covered pretty much in every technology session that I've covered is called Book Creator. Now, Book Creator, again, since I've shown it so many times, I'm not necessarily going to cover how it works, but I'm going to show you a new feature that has been added. So a lot of us are pretty familiar with Book Creator. It's a fairly self-explanatory app. You kind of see the options that you have. I've covered why I think this is a good app for both elementary and for older students. Familiar with Book Creator. However, for this, there's also a desktop version available with Google Chrome. So I'm going to go on my Google Chrome here, and I have signed into my account with Book Creator. I was able to create a free account. I created a new book. I've started here. Again, I get a lot of the same options to be able to insert stuff into my book, using the camera roll, drawing, text, recording, all of those types of things. I can add in different stuff. I can make comic books. All of that stuff is great. Book Creator has a ton of great features. What is new with Book Creator is the ability to collaborate with books, and you see it there as the second option. Now, unfortunately, the collaboration feature is a paid version of their desktop. There is a 14-day free trial, but it is something that is possible to get, maybe with a technology grant, hint, hint. So it is something people can definitely check out. You can collaborate on books in real time. Kids can kind of work together on those. Again, with Book Creator, just kind of some of the things I like about it: the ability for the book to be read, the ability to kind of add voice, with the ability to be able to add video. There's a lot of possible features there. If you search Book Creator on Google and just look for ideas on how to implement them in your classroom, it is probably, out of all the apps that I use, the one that I'm able to find the most ideas for. There's so much research and so many ideas out there just by searching the Book Creator app. There's different books that have actually been written that are available to download for Book Creator, and I just highly recommend it. I did read online that the collaboration tool is coming to the iPad app. We do have licenses for the paid version of Book Creator, so hopefully that collaboration tool comes out for iPad, and we are able to use that with the licenses that we have. So that's Book Creator. That's how you can collaborate. Next up is an app actually that I feel like I have vastly underutilized, and I'm really something I want to probably find a way to use in my classroom is Keynote. Now this obviously is an Apple product that I feel like, since it was first created, has really developed into a powerful and very, very useful multimedia tool. So the deal with Keynote is, again, it's another kind of presentation tool. They've added the ability to kind of collaborate with other people. But why I like Keynote versus maybe like a Google Slides is just kind of the layout and the overall look of Keynote. I think can make a lot better visual presentations. So I'm going to cover Keynote just kind of really quick, the basics of it, and how to use this to be able to collaborate with others. So with Keynote, I've opened it up here. If I go back, one thing I like about Keynote is I think their themes are a little bit more, just a little overall better. I think they provide a little bit better sight to be able to create something that looks really, really sharp. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose a theme here. And within that theme, obviously, a lot of the stuff is very editable. I'm going to add a new slide. Again, with Keynote, they give you so many more options as far as how to make things look. So many things that I think are just really easy to kind of manipulate. So I'm going to choose one here. If I come over here on the top right corner, I see the plus. That's where I have the ability to add all the items that I want. So standard media functions, I can add stuff from the camera, I can record audio, photo, video, all the options that I want there. One thing I kind of like is the ability to add shapes. They have different categories that you can kind of scroll through. If you add a shape, you have the ability to edit that shape. Let's see if I can fill in, I can make it look different colors. There I have the ability to kind of mess around with a lot of different things there. So there's shapes, there's the ability to insert charts or graphs directly right into your keynote presentation. You can look through all sorts of 2D, 3D, interactive type charts, and then the ability to insert tables and other contents. I have a whole bunch of options about how to make them look. That's some of the tools that I can add with Keynote. One thing that I like with Keynote is the ability to look at some different settings. So Keynote has a lot of great settings. Obviously, the first one that jumps out there is the ability to collaborate. You can just send an invitation, lots of different ways to send it out. If I choose mail, I can mail that link right to other people. They can jump on and they can start collaborating with other people. So that's a great way to incorporate collaboration. It has some really cool presentation tools. Keynote Live is what the program is called. That lets you kind of control more things. And there's just all sorts of really great tools that Keynote provides that might not be available with some of the other programs like Google Slides and some of the ones like that. So that's kind of the quick rundown on Keynote. The big thing there is the collaboration and all of the features that come with the ability to use Keynote. So the last tool I'm going to show here is actually something a little bit different. This is more a tool for older students, people who probably have to work in groups outside of maybe a class. The program we're going to show off here is called Slack. Now what Slack is specifically designed for, it's a free app, it's a free program. It's designed for people to be able to work in groups together. You can send updates, files, just different conversations so that you can kind of keep everybody together and on the same page. Like I said, it was a free program. I just had to use my email address. I had to verify my account. Again, the layout is kind of self-explanatory. I have the ability to add people up here. I can do different things. I can add files that I want to keep in my own app. Down here at the bottom is where I have the ability to insert stuff. I can send out messages. I can just say things like, hey, I've got that done. Send those, everybody in the group look at those. I can add a file, which I sent one of the keynote presentations that I've been working on. I can send stuff from my photo library, so if I want to send a picture of something that I've done, I'm able to do that. I can send those off. Lots of just different things you can be able to send. So that's essentially the program Slack that just provides that space for people to be able to collaborate together, kind of work together, and organize all their information so that everybody has all the files and resources that are needed when working in groups. All right, that's the end of this session 3, Collaborating with Tech. Just to kind of a couple of final thoughts here to make sure that we get all the requirement needed for this session. Again, go on Schoology, complete the requirement that goes with it. There will be directions and instructions on how to complete that requirement as far as what is needed to be done. Secondly, I would just encourage you to search for ideas, whether it's one of the specific tools that we talked about in this video or something else that you want to use to help collaboration in your classroom, whether it's a big group project or something small that you want kids to work together on. There are lots of ideas out there that you can search for, or ask me for maybe an idea or two that we can work together on. Don't forget to subscribe to me on YouTube. I put out a lot of tutorial videos, a lot of videos throughout the school year on different apps and programs that you can look forward to. And of course, reach out to me on Twitter at AirBlair3. I put out a lot of things throughout the school year on cool apps and programs and new things that are coming out that you can take advantage of in your classroom.